There we go. That'll do. All right. Time to ping the people. Oh. One singular viewer. Thank you for coming. uh, okay. I think it's going to take a little bit for people to arrive, but we've got fun things coming. We've got very fun things coming. Let's see if I can bring this over here. Cool. Got that. Hey, Tim, how's it going? I've spilled water all over my desk. This is what I get for trying to stay hydrated. I'll be right back. Hello, folks. I'm just cleaning up the water spill before we get started. Luckily, there's no cables under my desk. So really, and I got it didn't hit my keyboard or anything like that. So you managed to change your scene in OBS. I did. I'm becoming a better streamer. I think I'm getting there. All right. I think we're okay. Whoops. There we go. Well, I'll deal with the rest of that later. That was loud. There we go. Ah. Okay, there we go. Hey everybody. Hello from NixOS. Very cool. What do we got? Hey Sarah, hey Tim. Hey Supratim. Nathan, that HCI academic knowledge needs to be shared. No social media content on that stuff. Yeah. Which brand of HCI are you interested in me sharing about? Are you looking for more of my like background in the social media stuff? Almost leg reveal. There it is. That's the leg. Almost feet reveal. No. That's paid for. But yes, I mean, I know I haven't been making a lot of videos and content and stuff lately. Um, there's just been too many things to do, but it is something I'm interested in getting back to. I need to we're making a big push for the digital declutter stuff again, and that's requiring a lot of time and attention. So that's where most of my work on things has been going. That and like new spec stuff. So I'm going to talk about some of the AI coding stuff I've been up to because that's feeding into the home labbing we're going to do today. And one of the big reasons that we're so interested in NixOS here these days. Design research on all kinds of things from Kai CSCW conferences. Ooh, honestly, like I was never that deep into the design space. I did HCI mostly about smartphone interventions. I was like an intervention researcher and some amount of design work on interfaces for A/B testing, that kind of thing. But I would be interested. I mean, the division that I work in at Autodesk publishes at CSCW and Kai quite a bit. Um, I'd like to get back into reading papers and stuff. That does sound like fun. Okay. There's actually, yeah. No, that would be really cool. Ah, one of these days. One of these days. Um, okay. That kind of stuff. Yeah, no, that totally would be cool. I am very interested in A/B testing. That is one of the major topics that the lab I was at was studying. And I was studying interventions, like smartphone interventions, as a home to put my A/B testing work into. So the labs thing was like, we should be doing adaptive multi-arm intervention work. So that like as data comes in, we can do sort of like Bayesian updating to make sure that we're giving people the most effective arms throughout the intervention. For example, if you're doing like a mental health intervention, which was a lot of what we did, um, there's an ethical dilemma where if you've gained some amount of information that intervention A is better than intervention B, and you're not actioning on that information whatsoever, then you're kind of actively giving an entire group the worst intervention, right? So you're actively choosing to not give them essentially mental health support. Now, there's two reasons that's not just like a black and white issue. One is you have some data, you have not proven anything, right? And so just jumping to the conclusion that because you have some data, you should act on it, not good, right? The kind of the whole point of science, really. Uh, and then the other part is you need to continue collecting data in some way so that you can actually like do the experiment, because that's how you actually decide, how you actually gain concrete information. Bayesian updating kind of lets you allocate arms proportionate to the amount of information you have, and that's pretty cool. I would eat up this content. It would be really cool to talk about that. I was never that good at it. Note, I dropped out. So, but yeah, it would be cool. Exactly. You still need a valid control. But yeah, we were really interested in like massive sets of micro experiments. So there's a lot of work on like which interventions work, right? Like this psychological theories or this psychological theories, and for what kinds of people and groups. There's not a lot of research in like which phrasings and framings are persuasive, um, and in which formats, right? And sort of these digital environments let you do, if you have access to a really large audience, kind of these micro experiments, which is really cool. Yes, that's exactly what I'm thinking. Yes, the tests are minimal harm to do the most good. Exactly. Because beautiful, this Nix stuff is interesting, but like a few turns of Claude, and I recently spun up a Nix Home Lab VM through infrastructure as code via OpenTofu. Yeah, that's. Were you using OpenTofu to drive Proxmox to the provision your Nix VM? Because I thought about that too. I'm just like raw dogging Nix right now, but I'm really I'm still thinking about what the end goal is going to be. Um, Not sure yet. But, hey, you're on screen. They saw you. Okay, cool. Nix can output VM images for what it's worth. That's so dope. Okay, really cool. Yeah, I haven't decided what this is going to look like when it's done. But I had a realization recently, which was, again, the arc. We've talked about my arc in the past, where it's like I was just building random crap and testing out infrastructure and various technologies, and that had me go through Kubernetes and all of that, and a bunch of other things. And then I never built anything, and then a lot of things broke. And then I came up with a big plan for how I would make things perfect. And then, you know, big plans for how things are perfect never pan out and usually never get done. Even if they do get done, they're not perfect. But mine didn't get done. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to make something small and works. And that will be the surface area for making it better. So first we will make something work. And then we will make it better. Get one Nix VM, get fully spun up and stable with all your services correctly working, then deploy it everywhere you need. Interesting. Okay. So, let's talk a little bit more about some of the tooling that I've been exploring lately. Oh, is that working? Yeah. So, if we go over here, I've been working on an extension. I forked OpenSpec. That's a much better way to say it. I forked OpenSpec, and now I'm calling it SpecBase, and it's awesome. The goal for SpecBase is I wanted a way to keep specs. I wanted a way to keep specs for the entirety of how the repo operates, right? So with OpenSpec, you're kind of, it's like, to me, it felt very much focused on the behavior of the application. And then it's kind of implied that, you know, you track the behavior, and then the behavior becomes the code. When you implement, it becomes code. Let's do this for a bit. Right? So that's cool and fun. But what if I want to track architecture? What if I want to track ops? Where do we keep secrets? You could write a spec for that, but now the behavior of the app is muddled with also the architecture of the app and also kind of how ops is done. That feels weird. And should you be writing specs about how your agents behave? And so a lot of this, what I found people do, and what I've done and what friends have done in a lot of projects, is just like, you tell the agent to write a lot of markdown files all over the place, hoping that it just like grabs the right context. But OpenSpec has already solved the problem of like high quality context for like targeted implementation details and stuff, right? So the OpenSpec folder is where the specs about the code exist, right? Yes, I'm very interested in secret spec. That's something we may explore today. Oh, cool. Sitting with OpenSpec on a new project. I would love, if you ever have the time, if you try out OpenSpec, once SpecBase, which is the thing I'm building, settles a bit, I would love to get your thoughts on the comparison. So anyways, I wanted to be able to track all of the things. All the things. That's what we want to track. And then we also want to build in tests. So tests and enforcement in general map to a spec. So let's take a look. The repo was originally called OpenSpec Extended. It is now called SpecBase. And the idea is, under specs, there are now directories, right? For different types of specs. Now, all of these are configurable, right? So within config.yaml, you can't see this because my head's too big. Within config.yaml, let's pop me over here for a sec, right? We list all of the planes. These are the types of specs we're going to track. Regarding tests, have you gone over the methodology I provided? Not yet. I haven't had time, but I'm looking forward to it. We have planes, and then each plane outlines a different kind of thing that you're tracking for the code base. The defaults are behavior. This is behavior of the application. Architecture, the shape of the application, right? Ops. So this is where I put things like infrastructure as code. Which packages are we using? Like what what tooling are we using? This is your DevX stuff, right? Code quality. If you want rules about what good code is, you can put it in here, and then you can create lints and things like that. Design system, if you want to be able to track how your system should look, right? We can talk about that and create specs for this. And then agents. We should be able to put in our specs how we think our agents should behave, how, like, what capabilities they have. If you write a skill for your code base, you should be able to spec that first, and then it gets implemented and tracked. So for example, if we look at agents, right? Spec driven is itself a spec. This code base is spec driven, and we track that as a spec. Because why not, right? Like, the whole thing should be captured. The clean manifesto is because, and I'm sorry about the Robert Martin stuff. I needed an analog here for what I'm thinking about. I needed a way to think about, well, what is a good spec and what is a good spec base, right? The architecture of all of this. What does that look like? And I sort of drafted a manifesto for this so that we have an understanding of what good specs look like. Bunch of cool stuff like this. If we look at behavior, you can see categories. The behavior of the CLI. We need to track this. There's a top level spec which sort of says, what is the general behavior of the CLI? What is the purpose of it? But then there's per command, right? So what is there's archive. The ARs are familiar with it, so long as they pull the good bits, not the ones that turn toxic. Oh, yes. Yes, I'm hoping they're not looking at Robert Martin's Twitter. So there's behavior. I laugh, but Grok would. So, I mean, I don't use anything Elon Musk produces, so we should be fine. Code quality, right? Here we have the rule. Yeah, right. Here we have the rules for how a spec should be authored, right? Ops includes the Nix stuff, right? Under architecture, we have a bunch of other things, right? Like, the whole point here is that we're tracking the entirety of the code base as a spec base. Cool. That's the idea. And I think it leads to more structured things. So if we look at, oh, I don't have Kairos here. So, whoops, cd Kairos. There we go. If we go over here, tmux new session Kairos. So this spec base has the same directories. Again, you can configure this. So if you don't like agents, architecture, behavior, design system, ops, whatever your categories are, you go right ahead and set those up. That's fine, right? I wanted the defaults to be good, but I also wanted them to be exposed such that you can just rip them out, right? They're also opt-in, so you can just not include them, and then you get regular old OpenSpec, more or less. I always wonder, at what point does the structure outweigh the project? How much context am I spending on structure too? I'm thinking about that too, both AI and mine. I agree. I think so far I haven't overdone it, I think. But I'm on the edge, right? I think I'm taking this to an extreme to see what happens. What I've found so far is that I find spec bases easier to read. So when you just let OpenSpec go, right, you just get spec sprawl. So it's a series of specs. None of them are, like, you can't tell which ones are highly granular and which ones are really big. It's like a huge mess, right? But now we have categories and nesting to give us some of that structure. So if we go here, behavior, we have all of, like, major behaviors. So what's a good example here? Let's maybe start with architecture. So this top level architecture spec we've added purpose documents at the top, which basically say what the point of a certain spec is. So the top level one, the purpose of the architecture spec is that it establishes sort of like the hexagonal structure. Dependencies point strictly inward, blah, 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 that sort of thing. I really like this purpose thing because I want specs to be glanceable. I want you to be able to use a spec to understand what's being built, right? So what's the point of the application ring? protects the application ring as a single portable engine, one run loop, one frame producer, so it tells us what it is, what it contains, and so on. So this is what I've been building. I like it so far, and I want to test it with a bunch of stuff. And that's what we're going to use to build the home lab. So we're going to hop over here and start playing around with it. Why do I have 2 of these open? So let's take a look at what we have so far. Not a lot. Ooh, there's one more feature I really like. It's still a work in progress, but if you do spec-base ideas list, you can now track kind of like issues, essentially. You can kind of keep track of like, hey, what are some of the things that we're going to be working on in this project in the future that we may want to turn into specs later. So today, get Samba shares working. I was thinking about configuring my MacBook with Nix Darwin. For ops, I'm thinking about secret specs with SOPs. Lots of cool stuff we can work with. The first thing I want to do today is try to get Samba shares working. And then, I don't know. I think after that, if that just works, TM, then I want to set some guardrails in place and some testing and like get the sort of make this code base nice and clean. You know, set some good standards in place. Why is this? Can I make? Oh, there we go. A little bigger. Okay, cool. So, yeah, let's do this. So I'm just gonna hop into Pi. This is so big. I've got the screen or like the text massive right now. So works like OpenSpec. We do an Explore, but Explore can now take an idea. So if you have an idea that you've sort of fleshed out like this, get Samba shares, which has no context in it yet, then you can just pass that in. This entire directory can be pulled for context. So if you want to throw images and stuff in it, if you want to point Obsidian at it, that works. Hey, Plus, how's it going? So there's nothing in here. I actually need to fix that. It should at least fill with a title. Any way to use this with Ugreen NAS that anyone's been using? Is this with the Ugreen NAS? I don't think so. I think with Ugreen, you're sort of stuck in their operating system and their GUI unless you're, oops, that's not what I want to do. Unless you're installing Nix or some other thing, some other operating system. Oh, wait, which one are we using? I want to do, for this, I also want to stick to open models for the home lab. So, where's my model? There we go. We're going to use the free DeepSeek v4. There we go. I think it's just a computer. You could always format it depending on the context of this. Yes, the Ugreen NAS is just a computer from what I understand as well. And you can just install Linux, any Linux distro if you want. And then you could take advantage of all this tooling. Why does this context haunt me in life and code? Which context? You could always format it depending on the context of this. You can replace Ugreen's entire OS by Proxmox and run TrueNAS inside. So possible, yes. Okay, awesome. A couple of things that I really want to work on with this home lab is I want to avoid hard coding host IDs, host names, and things like that as much as possible. This context. Yes. So let's see what it does. Things like IP addresses, you know, I want these in like .env files or something. We're going to be looking at a couple of fun things today, like, where is this? I'm going to take a look at secret spec and SOPs. So one of my goals for this project, is to keep as much information in the repo as possible. There are two reasons for this. One, the more we can version control, the better. Two, the more that's stored as text, the more the LLM can manage things. And that sounds pretty cool to me. Is it talking to me now? Or is it still reasoning? Okay, it's talking to me. So we'll take a look at this. I want to set up Samba first just to make this work as a NAS. Once Samba's up and running, it's a NAS as far as I'm concerned. After that, I want to set up guardrails and things. So what do we got? ZFS.nix imports pools and media. The two things you want to share are already there, not directories, but ZFS pools. So this is really take the already imported pools and make them reachable over SMB. Correct. Datasets and mount points. The most load-bearing unknown, Samba shares by path. System keyring with secret spec for dev environment is perfect. System keyring with secret spec for dev environment. Okay, cool. If the pools mount as their roots, simple. If there are nested datasets, do you expose the pool root? I'm down for pool root. Second fork, who touches it and how? Samba has its own account DB, separate from system users. The operator user exists, but SMB credentials are a separate pass. Guest. And the client matters for discovery. macOS Windows often want MDNS Avahi to show the shares in Finder's sidebar. So, couple niceties here. I want this as easy as possible on macOS. That would be nice. So, Avahi sounds necessary. Somebody needs 445. That's a small but real change. Cool. The host module spec already owns the invariant. Each concern gets its own role module, and default.nix imports it exactly. The pattern ZFS Nix follows. So the natural home is samba.nix. That's fine with me. We might restructure this later. Storage NAS Samba. Yeah, that's fine. Ops, enabling services, Samba is adopting a runtime on the box, though the existing repo has curiously put packages enabled on the NAS. Right. Restructure almost free now. Yeah. It's much nicer. I've been finding it's really, really nice to just make something exist now. And then once it exists, your taste can apply to something that's real. But prior to that, it's all just like arbitrary pontificating. Once it exists, refactoring and making the structure nicer is actually a really great experience because you don't have to trudge through it now. You can just make that happen and sort of apply taste to it. I think all that to say, like in fewer words, it's easier to just make it work and then refactor now. And that's really nice. Okay. And no new spec. Yeah, we probably don't need architecture stuff. The enforcement angle would lean on NixEval. It's network firewall for the structure. Cool. Yeah, we need so we likely need a manual enforcement that asks if the Samba share is visible. Or we could do something automated that runs on the deployer if the deployer is local. So right now, remember, enforcement is built into how spec-based works, right? So it's asking me now, make it work, build extensive tests, then refactor. Last two are basically free now. Yeah, it's really cool. I've been finding, you all know that I've been thinking quite a bit about how to treat software development and general IT work now as a craft. And I was feeling kind of divorced from that because I don't write code anymore. And code was the craft for a really long time. But applying my taste to a repository and to the specs has felt like a craft again. Especially as I develop out spec base, it feels like I'm sitting here really thinking about, well, how do we enforce this? And what kind of spec are we actually defining here? What kind of functionality is this? How do we organize this so that it's readable and maintainable for both agents and people? Um, you know, so that's pretty cool. Oh yeah, I need to fix that. Ironically, that feeling hit me about 10 years ago. Just managing specs and stuff. I guess if you're like significantly senior, if you're an architect or something, like a software architect, you're probably not writing a ton of code anymore. And at the very least, you're probably at a state where you're like, yeah, I'm good enough at writing code that this is not a thing that I'm like every day concerned about, like reading more books to get better at. Like you're probably comfortable with that and thinking about the larger picture and having like people more junior than you bringing architecture documents to you. Hmm. Yeah. Okay, cool. Mount to the roots. Yes, I want to do that. Auth and access. For now, let's do guest. For now, let's do guest open. We'll come up with a scheme for how users are going to interact with this, because I don't know how to make it easy for my Mac to authenticate as some password protected user. Do we even still care about passwords? Like password protection in current year feels like a very naive approach to this. So I'm gonna think about that later. Clients are Linux and Mac OS. Finder, network, browsing is valuable. Break the packages as behavior convention. The repo currently files vim and git under behavior storage, which is arguably ops. Truth thinly disguised. No, it's not. Ops is about deployment. It's not getting that. I assume keys or SSO or EAP provisioning or something. I don't have any of that set up yet. So actually, this is a really good question. I'm just gonna let this run. This is a really good question for you all who have a little bit more, a little bit more experience than me. Um, so there's like a chicken and egg problem that I've been thinking about, which is if I run some authentication service on my Nix box, right? So let's say the NAS is also hosting applications and it has some authentication server of some sort. If that service goes down and I can't authenticate to access the box, that sounds bad. How do I get in and fix it? I mean, I can just plug in a monitor and keyboard and fix it from there. So there is that. Maybe this is not a problem. Maybe I'm being silly. Yeah. Okay. On the topic of authentication, this is something that I am thinking about for the entirety of the home lab. And there's some really cool stuff that I want to play with, right? I was thinking about this before. I was thinking about Netbird or Tailscale, and they allow you to create users for your network and then authenticate across the board as those users, right? I forget what this is called. Is this SAML? SAML SSO? So I was thinking about like SAML SSO for Jellyfin and all of that kind of fun stuff. But yeah, I don't know enough about that yet to know how I would implement. I mean, I'll get to it, but I was wondering if any of you had thoughts. Keeping hardened SSH visible on the network is very doable. Out-of-band management is a thing. Okay. When you say hardened SSH, what does that mean to you? Is that just like SSH keys that are well stored? Ooh, yeah, that's a good reason to get one of those. What was the hardware key of choice you had again? Um, that sounds. And then I could also keep my auth keys in like Bitwarden or something. In one of my recent projects, there are no users. MTLS certs mapped to roles by CN, and that's all about it. And that's all about it. But it depends on the software. This one is for island ops. There are no users. MTLS certs mapped to roles by CN. There's a few words in there I don't know. I've seen them before. I know TLS. I understand a vague notion about how certs work. I understand roles from my AWS background. I don't know what map by CN means, but I'm getting the understanding of, like, based on my AWS background, that a person, right, or let's say something that needs to authenticate, is handed a temporary role that has certain permissions, and then gets like a cert, and then they can do the thing for that temporary period. Is that right? I propose CAGs. Is that okay? Um, as well, derived from a system key, though that's an absurdly high bar. I don't know what CAGs are. Also, pronouncing that sounds rude. In MTLS, your app is the cert authority. Okay, CA, yes. CN is an identifier the certificates carry. Okay. Do you have a do you recommend a book or at least an article or something that I can read to get a better understanding of how those components interact with one another? CGA. Okay, sorry. Cryptographically generated addresses. Okay. This is a little beyond me. But the more I interact with the words, the more they'll click next time I'm talking. Okay. Let's continue on with this. Collapses most of the decision space. Let me lock what you said in, and then poke. Cool. macOS and Linux, MDNS, show it in Finder. Yes. Guest open, services Samba as behavior, opstay deployment scoped. Yes, that's right. Media bin and small boy. Yeah, nice. And the services Samba is behavior stance is self-consistent. Yeah, I'm aware. No architecture spec. NAS Samba. Interesting. How are these sorted right now? So if I go specs, behavior storage. Right. That makes sense. Storage is the root directory for storagey things. Cool. Okay, cool. Yes, I would love to hear more about that and be able to read your code. That would be a treat to get to read the code that you write. That would be really cool. Okay. Yeah, so we're adding Samba Nix, Finder, Linux. macOS Discovery is what makes this slightly more than turn on Samba. Yeah, macOS Finder resolves shares by MDNS. So you want smub.tk advertised under the machine name this. Two ways to get there. Avahi publishing it, or Samba's built-in MDNS name equals MDNS. That's a design detail for the proposal. The behavioral truth is this. Resolves and lists. Yes, that is the behavioral truth, which Avahi sounds macOS macOS dependent, whereas the Samba's built-in sounds like the better way to do it. It doesn't require me installing Avahi. So I think, like, just vibes based, I like that solution better. There's fewer dependencies. MDNS being the Samba built in solution sounds nicer because it reduces dependencies. Are there any reasons to prefer Avahi? Pool root as path is fine long term. Third goal is boot ordering. If SMBD starts before the pools are mounted, doesn't exist yet, the share misbehaves. On NixOS, ZFS import runs at target stage well before SMBD, but it's worth a system dependency note, so this never bites. Also, path-based shares are static. You'd add one per dataset when that day comes. Pool root handles now cleanly. For pool root, would I not automatically be able to read the datasets inside the pool? Do I need a separate share for each? Okay, I think I remember that I actually have to make a separate share for each dataset, which makes me wish that I hadn't created so many datasets. That being said, it's useful to be able to back up separate data. Whatever, it's fine. In that case, we have several datasets that need shares. For macOS, there's one standard tuning packet. What the heck is this? Oh, I'm not... Okay. Finder behave properly with SMB. Okay, whatever. Yep, wire visibility. See the shares. Yeah. And NixEval can't answer this. That's correct, but you floated something sharp. macOS can check this natively, and you are the deployer running OpenSpec on macOS. So an automated binding that shells out to SMB util, needs no creds, guest open, genuinely proves the shares are visible live. This would be really cool. My rule for datasets based on how upset I'd be if I lost the data on it. Yeah, that makes sense. And we're talking about like the datasets I have are I've got separate datasets for movies, photos, music, like the various forms of media. I would never back up my movies. That's just too much, but I would back up encrypted photos. So that's why I have them separate. I might even back up music because it's so small. And those I'm happy to send like encrypted up to, well, music doesn't need to be, but photos do, up to some blob, is it blob storage? I'm thinking of like an S3 equivalent. Fragile automated versus honest manual. Automated on deployer. Real proof, but it only runs when/where the NAS is reachable. If the NAS is off, why would the NAS be off? For a home lab with no CI, OpenSpec only runs on that Mac. Okay, let me think. Is this overcomplicating it right now? I can just check, and then we can add this later. Yeah. Leave the SMB util view. Where would I run this? Right now it's running here. I want this to run from some sort of like CI pipeline. That being said, would I ever want it to run on like through like GitHub Actions? That seems extremely unlikely. Where would I run these? Where will the CI pipeline live? Yeah, that's exactly the question, isn't it? Where will the CI pipeline live? Let's take a second and explore that. For Forge.jo on the NAS. I don't know what that is, but that sounds pretty cool. Forge.jo? Beyond coding, we forge. You gotta be kidding me. What a thing to call it. I love this. It's so serious. Forge great software with Forge.jo. Lightweight software Forge. Okay. Fork of Git. How many forks do they need? Why? Self-hosted alternative to Git. Git actions are very home lab ready, not overblown like GitLab. I see. Okay. So why this one over Git and small chicken and egg issue here? If my CI for launch for like this device is running on the device itself, that feels iffy. Is that my spider senses tingling for no reason? Or is that a legitimate concern? What do you all feel about that? In the meantime, though, spec base. I managed a fully in-house internal GitLab setup for enterprise. Don't do that. Yeah, I won't do that. I think Guelph did. When I was doing undergrad, we had our own, like the sysadmins there ran GitLab. It was quite nice. I mean, I didn't have to manage it, so you know. We're gonna do this title, and I say this is an ops feature. It's ops and behavior, I guess. Forge.jo, self-hosted Git thingy with cool home labby actions. Might be good for, oh yeah, let's do that, and then -- note. Might be good for handling actions and CI stuff. Cool. Hey, Swag Ghost, how's it going? Never again if I have a choice. Okay, cool. So you can see how spec-based ideas, really cool way to be able to track things. I thought about it because Sarah, last stream you mentioned some of the things that we might want in this home lab, and I was like, oh, that's going to stick in my brain for sure. Trust me. And in general, it has, but give it another week and it wouldn't have, you know? And so I just want a quick way to be able to just toss ideas into the repo as we go. In the same way as like, I used Task Warrior at one time and I loved the CLI task like to-do list. And I wanted that, but per repo tied to the way I track a repository. Same for Maven. Oh, Maven. I haven't done Java stuff in a long time. As far as legit spider sense, just make it durable enough to run from anywhere. Am I capable of that? Actual valuable question. Am I capable of that? Okay, so what would need to happen? The SMB util view test would need to be able to run from the CI runner, right? And okay, I think the CI runner will run as a VM on a separate machine, maybe. Will I need... Let's imagine for a second I've got SMB util. Will SMB util show me SMB shares on the device itself? And is that useful for testing? Right? So if I use... First question is, if you run SMB util view for an IP address that is this device, does that truthfully show you that the Samba shares are shared, right? And then the second question is that an adequate test that it's being found on other devices / the network? Verifying via your CI runner is tricky. Verifying live network state is always formally undecided. While my opinion about Kate's is pretty much established, for runners, not that bad. If it's a VM with its own network address, then yes, it's largely valid. That's what I thought. Okay. So a reasonable approach for the future would be on a separate device, we run this forge Jill with some stuff. Forge Jill with and we use it to do network tests. So it would have to be meaningfully separate from this device, from the NAS. That's fine with me. This does mean I probably want consistently a separate host for kind of opsy things. That host might be a VM, but I want an opsy host. Okay, so let's make a note of this. I've got NeoVim already open. I think I'll want a separate host for opsy things, like running my CI. Reason: testing things like if Samba shares are actually detectable requires a separate host to really work. Same with network things. Network discoverability in general. I just want this device to be separate from the main hosting devices. Let's call them service hosting devices. I think that makes sense. Yo, how's it going? If it's a VM with its own, yeah. NixOS plus CI means you have to the metal ops. Very cool. Okay, I think that makes sense. For SMB util view, yes, let's write that enforcement. Last thing. right? Can you... Oh, it doesn't have my password. Here's the thing to consider. Why not make each service its own VM? What's stopping you? I don't have a ton of RAM on this. It is a consideration, right? So, I have, like, I'm not committed to Docker per se for this home lab. Some way of containerizing, and by container, okay, some way of containing, isolating, I think is a better word because it's less loaded. Some way of isolating services I want to do. Are you, okay, yeah, but you've mentioned in the past that you have like a micro VM thing going on. And I know I did a little reading. Nix has some really cool micro VM stuff, I think. So I am considering it. Nothing's stopping me. It's just I haven't thought it through deeply enough to make a decision yet. Yeah. Anyways. Right. It probably can't run this because it needs the passwords, which is another reason I would really love to have some SOP stuff going on. But last thing, you can run commands over SSH. Oh, wait, no, I have SSH this, right? I have the SSH key already. Oh, I turned it off. I turned my NAS off. It's in development, so it doesn't, not that important. Okay. Microvm.nix is a thing. Yes, you'll have more like 50 to 100 megabytes by default. I'm running an ultra stripped custom kernel, so no systemd and more. Okay. I feel like I still... Oh, no systemd for the VM. That's interesting. I feel like systemd within the VM would be useful to me. Oh, maybe it wouldn't. I don't know. It wouldn't if we're just running a container, right? If we're treating the micro VM like a container, then systemd is not useful. Okay, so I was thinking of installing WSL to learn Linux for now, then switch to a distro. That sounds awesome. I think WSL, or as we call it here, Weasel, is a great way to get started with Linux if you're not comfortable moving off of Windows yet. You're stuck on just like the terminal, so you won't get a feel for how GUI Linux works. But that's totally fine. If this is like a way to kind of like dip your toe into the Linux waters, congratulations. I think that's an excellent way to start. LXC and LXD are quite good. I've heard good things. LXC isn't totally bad either, at least better than their reputation. LXC has a bad reputation? I don't know about that. I switched to S6. I'm not familiar with S6. Okay. Linux for now, then switch to a distro. Cool. This should work now. Haha. Okay. I wonder if I can get it to SSH in and grab the data sets and like figure out what those are, right? So I'm like here SSH'd in. I can do like a ZFS list and it has all of this nonsense. Weird, right? Movies, books, shows are separate from movies. I guess that makes sense. Oh, there's a lot of stuff on here that I can get rid of. TrueNAS users, Papa Roach. Yeah, like that can go. KPVC can go. Backups will stay. AI models, maybe. Data. Data is just everything. Cool. YouTube. Where did I put? Yeah. Okay. Nice. It can. This is fantastic. Weasel is great. There's some confusion because file sharing between Weasel and Windows isn't always perfect. Yes, agreed. But anything to make those first steps into Linux easier is pretty good. Another thing you could try if you want to do a little bit of like kind of suss out how it feels to use a Linux GUI, if you set up some bootable media, so that's like get a USB stick, you install a Linux ISO onto it, right? You can use Etcher or all sorts of tooling for it. then you can just plug that into your computer, not install Linux, but explore what Linux feels like. You can also do this in a virtual machine, but I'm guessing if you've never used Linux before and you're playing with Weasel, you probably aren't super familiar with how to set up virtual machines, unless you're some sort of Windows systems administrator guru, which exists. That's basically my dad. We've moved 2 machines to Linux with my dad. He's been a big fan of Kubuntu. He likes KDE because it's more Windows-like than GNOME. And VirtualBox is pretty easy to get into. True. And we moved. There's like in the basement at my parents' house. There's 4 computers set up because we used to have LAN parties basically every weekend with my friends. We don't do that very much anymore because I don't live there. I live here now. But when I was a kid, we used to do that. Anyways, beside my dad's computer, to the left of him is another computer, because again, 4 computers in a row. And he uses that computer to the left of him mostly to just stream TV shows and stuff while he plays Minecraft. And so that machine was running Windows 10 and having a bunch of weird failures. And we finally moved it over to Kubuntu. So that's pretty hype. My laptop got dual GPU, and I can't find any distro that I can run smoothly on my laptop. I installed Papa OS and Mint, but struggled on both, mostly with switching GPU, connecting external monitor. Ooh, I've never run a dual GPU setup. Unless, is this like iGPU main GPU? Or maybe a better way to phrase that is iGPU discrete GPU. I've never played around with that. I'm iGPU DGPU at the moment. Right. Yeah, I've never had a discrete GPU in a laptop. Yeah. So I've never had to deal with that. All right. Confirmed. List shares with guests. Anonymous auth. No password prompt. That's a genuinely real wire check, not a mock. Sweet. 1 behavior spec. Yes. 2 small flags I'd love a final word on, but don't want to hold you up. Guest read only or read write. Guest read write for now. Friendlier in Finder versus literal. Agreed. Those are fine. Okay. Um, cool. Planning to get an X220 and be a ThinkPad shill. Even though it's old, it will serve as a Gen 2 laptop. Very cool. What made you consider hopping over to Gen 2? I'm sure a dedicated GPU setup would work in Nix. I mean, it's just Linux, right? So it's just a matter of getting the correct configuration. And the beautiful part is, the more of us that switch to NixOS, the more of us that can share Nix flakes together in a creative collective consciousness of knowledge about NixOS. And we can just share little Nix flakes with one another for any problem we face. Seems nearly every stream I have to ban someone on Twitch. Oh, really? Is it mostly... Oh, I don't have the multi-stream chat on. I've been missing out on Twitch chats. Is it mostly bots, or are you finding a lot of just really rude people? Nix Flakes, but without AI. Cool, cool. Hey, Royal Oreo. I like that. It's been going pretty well today. I mean, I don't have to install a distro today, so we're not doing the usual 3 installs. The first 2 always fail. But yeah, bots, yeah. Recently started showering, and I've been getting way fewer Nix flakes. Is that a touch grass joke? Is that a NixOS touch grass? Short answer, yes. 1 share does it all. No separate. Oh, very nice. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Go ahead and propose. Feed get Samba shares. CB propose spec. Cool. Yeah, because I don't have a spec for this yet, right? Under we don't have any. Oh no, we have changes. It's only archives. It shouldn't be telling me about this. Yes, cool. I'm for some reason, I guess inside the skill text it keeps reading as open spec. I need to go find why it's doing that. No store nearest root project root. What is it on about? I think it is confused. Config YAML is under spec base. Yes, it is confused. Where is OpenSpec? Do a quick, and we're gonna use some of this and SPCB. When using spec base, I'm still seeing a lot of references to OpenSpec in agent conversations and thinking. Can you scan for references to OpenSpec? Hey Nick, how's it going? Spotify released XIRP, a new warp alternative. Spotify dropped the terminal? That's interesting. What was I gonna say? I had a thought. And then I lost it. And of course, it's a Mac. Yes, I mean, all the money is in Mac stuff, right? Like if you're developing developer software, then like from what I can tell, most kind of industry software developers are running on Mac, right? Like there are very few places that give out desktop Linux machines, right? I'm sure CD and grep would have been easier. Yeah, probably. I'm gonna be honest. Let's take a look. Let's do a TLDR grep. How do I do search pattern path to file path? I can just do. How do I do this recursively? It's just path to directory. Okay, sweet. So I grep open spec. Can I just do this? It's not a directory. Do I have to give it like current working directory? Can I do this? Oh, wait. Nope. Ah, I wanted that. Okay. So if I do, I think this will work. That's correct. It is a directory. Path to file, path to directory. Ah, -RI. I missed that. Grep -RI. That's a lot of open spec. That's a lot. Are you running AI locally? No, I'm using OpenRouter right now. I would love to, but I do not have the money to run powerful models locally, unfortunately. TBH innovation in terminals is so weird to me. If I had an M2 or M3 MacBook Air, I would use NixOS with the Asahi kernel. I'm thinking about it. I really am. All right, so clearly there's a lot. We'll jump to that later. But now I know. -R for recursive. What was the other? Where's my TLDR? Why don't I just do TLDR? I need to switch off of fish, man. I hate it. All right, that's fine. Recursive -- binary files equals without match. What is the I for? You can just dual boot macOS with NixOS. I do have a dual boot already running. I haven't set. Maybe I'll do that. Just hasn't been like so many projects, you know. I'll get there. Fuck, should I use ZSH? Yeah, I threw Fish on here when I first installed. I like rebuilt this machine a couple months ago, and I was like, oh, I'll just get Fish on here so that I have completions for this stream or something like that. And then, you know, naturally, I never went back to fix it. I would really love to be on ZFS, or sorry, ZSH, but, you know, what are we going to do? I'll fix it when I get the time. So, we have this. Cool. There should be a purpose in here. Also, enforcement should not be a markdown file. One thing at a time. Proposal. The NAS already imports 2 ZFS pools that hold the user's media and personal data, but nothing on the network can reach them. We want the pools available to macOS and Linux clients over SMB. Guest open discoverable in Finder via MDNS. Nice. That is what we want. Back to bash. Back to bash. Yeah. I mean, I was on a bash only kick for a long time, which was kind of fun. Because they're like, I find ZFS to be relatively harmless in that it doesn't change many bash defaults. It's largely just compatible. But Fish just is its own beast, right? It like pretends to be bash-like, but then basic things don't work, right? Like I can't do bang TLDR to get the previous command. That's nuts. Why would you not include that? ZSH mostly does all of the things bash does. So I'm chill with that. But I wanted, for one of the principles I've been tinkering with is just using the default things that come with any Linux distribution and getting comfortable with those. So like one of the things that's becoming really popular, or has been for quite a while, is just like all of these Rust-based, faster, more ergonomic alternatives to GNU core utils, right? There's like ripgrep, and ripgrep's syntax is nicer and easier to use, and other ones. I don't know. That's the one that comes to mind. And I was like, like it's these are powerful, useful tools. But if I want to get good at managing any Linux system, then it's more useful to know grep than ripgrep, right? He says, having sent an agent off to go find text instead of using grep. Anyways, sudo rs and the other into NixOS. You can, but that's assuming that works for your home lab, right? In your home lab, you can be like, boom, everything's going to be rusty. Everything's going to be doing my preferences. But if I want to be skilled as a general Linux systems administrator, saying like maybe one day I want to do that professionally, or at least want that open to me, then we need to use sort of standard tooling. Ugh, I got sunburnt over the weekend, and my shoulders hurt. Enforcement, storage, sign. Okay, cool. What's it called? Feet together. What? This is the longest change ever. Did it actually copy? No. This feels heathenish. Going into NeoVim to use my cursor to copy something. What are you gonna do? I don't want it to mess this up, so let's try that. That's been my kick lately. Default standards are good to know. Yeah, exactly, right? That's my feeling about it. Cool. So this has been kind of a fun experiment in spec-driven home labbing. You know, So, like, why is flake.nix all the way out here? Interesting. I need to learn a little bit more about Nix. Huh. Created a README. Yeah, so right now we just have hosts with a bunch of Nix files. I'll come up with something later. Once it exists, then we can start to optimize. But right now, let's just make it go. So while this goes, we can draft another spec. So we've got, what do we got so far? We're doing the Samba stuff, and I'm excited about that. But I want to consider some ops standards. How do we want to handle secrets, right? I'm interested in SOPs. I've never used SOPs before, and I've never used this secret spec thing, but I'm very curious. So we're gonna explore that. Sure, let's use GLM. Why not? I'm curious about, actually, let's do it this way. I want to set some ops standards for this repo with regards to secrets, environment, variables, avoiding hard coding, things like IP addresses, switching to ForgeJo. I'm considering it. I was thinking about the CI, like what's going to run my CI stuff. I didn't want to run that in like GitHub, for example. For actually, as we were exploring this, I was considering I want tests to make sure that my Nix config works properly. In particular, the NAS can be said to work if on another machine on the network, the Samba shares can be viewed, which means I can't run like GitHub CI because it's not on my network, right? I need an in-network CI runner. And so Sarah recommended ForgeJo, and I was thinking about how to deal with that. Hello. Hey, Alex, not the lion. How's it going? Made the jump to Linux using Debian 13 with KDE. Nice. And all I can say is thank goodness for Claude Code. It saved me from driver issues multiple times. Honestly, yeah. I simply do not have secrets. They all just got into my GitHub. What? What? What do you mean they're not secret anymore? Wait, what does that mean? This things like IP addresses, ZFS pools, data sets, etc. Want all of these tracked outside the literal Nix flakes somehow. I imagine we'll be separating these to some degree, secrets versus just env values. But still, I'm curious about SOPs. I've never used it before, but it seems cool. I'm also curious about this. Cool. Committing secrets, classic. Very nice. Alex, are you into Linux for privacy, getting away from Apple and Microsoft, or to learn? Might try OSH, Elvish, or a new open source shell as my main. I remember hearing about Elvish. I don't know much about OSH. What do I have to hide? I'm an open book. What do I have to hide? What do you need privacy for? Like, what are you hiding? You know? Put .env in the template for all projects.getignore, and 80% of errors are handled. That's the 80-20 rule at work right there. 20% of the effort. Put .env in getignore template. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, this makes sense, right? This is kind of what I was thinking, right? We just have a bunch of values, and then we have a let block for our Nix things, and that loads in kind of hosts, IP addresses, all of that. I want like one file or multiple files, but still that are just like, here's what the hosts are, here's what the data sets are, kind of as like a quick overview of the home lab. And so I don't need to spend that much time reading the Nix. I can just be like, well, what's the view of the home lab? What are the active services, right? I mean, I suppose the spec does a lot of that, but still. Uh, the real problem with .env files is that it's not really that good from a security perspective. It's better than committing them, but only a bit. Yeah. Having said that, I'm still using my MacBook, but if I can be done with Windows, I will. I mean, I'm still on my MacBook. You're watching me stream from my MacBook. It is really useful, though. I hope Riot starts supporting Linux for games like Valorant. Yeah, that would be cool. I mean, I think that would be a big change for the world. Like, I've moved all my gaming to the living room with my Bazite gaming setup, which is a YouTube video I really look forward to making. And so I haven't played League in a while, but I mean, it would be cool for that to just not be a blocker. I hear this comment a lot in Reddit. They're like, haha, Linux gaming is better literally because it can't play those games. And like, that's such a stupid elitist stance. Like, the more Linux can allow people to do what they want to do, the better. Right? Like, if they want to play League or Valorant, yeah, like those games are frustrating and annoying for me, but if your friends meet that way, if you want to play those games, you should be able to on Linux. That's, you know? True, but you cannot simply change all projects or all people to avoid them at all. Yes, of course. Yeah. That makes sense. I do suggest digging into old Stack Overflow articles and such before going for Claude. It will help a lot in the long run. For real, looking forward to Living Room PC video. Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, where are we at with this? Oh, text. Lots of text. So, I've got my bearings. Blah, blah, blah. What's actually hard-coded today? Yeah, we have a lot of stuff hard-coded. Yeah, yep. Notably, no secrets exist yet. Yes, the current SSH stance is permissive, root login plus password auth, deferred under decision D8, so you're not migrating secrets, you're anticipating them. Yep, that's true. TikTok on Linux when? Yeah, I love that. Yes, I agree. OS level ID checking is nuts. This is the crux I want to pull apart outside the Nix flake. Non-secret values still get evaluated into the Nix store closure, fully reproducible in Git. Outside equals a separate file that Flake imports. Yes. Tools, a settings module, JSON YAML import. Yep. SOPs Nix, secret specs plus SOPs backend. Yeah. Pulling it out of the flake organizationally is about centralization and reuse. That's correct. Yeah, that's cool. Not about hiding it. Password, a private key, an API token. Those genuinely cannot live in plain text in the store. True. So I'd resist framing this as one initiative. It's two, with a thin shared theme. Stop scattering literals. Yep. This makes sense. Params first, secret second. For the crypto half, here's the decision landscape in NixOS world. A NixOS system service needs it. Where is the secret consumed? DB password decrypt at activation into a file service. So this is SOPs Nix. Aginx is the sibling choice per secret key file list instead of SOPs YAML. Right. Okay. What is GDID? I know nothing about that. Off TikTok, my beloved gone. The page you linked is secret specs using SOPs. Secret resolution layer. Oh, it's the Debian, folks. Cool. A secret spec toml declares what secrets exist. Providers declare where they live. Profiles declare when. Dev versus prod. Scopes declare which consumers get which subset. Okay. The clever part is per machine provider selection. The same declaration resolves from your local keyring on your laptop and from SOPs/vault on the NAS. No app code change. Cool. Story shines for Debian. Blah, 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 blah. There's a nix config.secretspec.secrets.x wiring for Debian. for NixOS system services that needs secret materialized as a file at activation, SOPsNix Aginix is the more native fit. It's literally a NixOS module that drops decrypted files into run secrets during activation, which existing NixOS options can reference. Okay. Alone is dead simple for a single NAS, and you can layer secret spec in front later when you actually have per machine variants. Yep, which brings me to a real question. Do you expect the declaration in one place? Source varies by machine. Okay. Source example, a second NixOS host or a secrets a deploy script needs on your workstation. Yes, or is this a single box future for now? Definitely going to have more than one machine. Definitely. Come in. We've got this machine. We've got our Proxmox machine. There's a bunch of reasons to want secrets. Yeah. A real NixOS module with options.homelab.star and per host settings. Ooh, cool. Is the only one that's enforceable, and you have a governed repo with an ops architecture. This is kind of cool. One, definitely more than one machine. Yep. Mapping the first 2 to 3 real secrets often reveals whether you need a file at activation, SOPsNix, or env at runtime. All right. We'll come back to this in a second. Oh, we've got some stuff happening. 7 out of 9 tasks. Binding command govern updated. Samba config eval binding command was changed from nixeval to config server Samba settings. Migrated Samba. Okay, that's all fine with me. Issue. Tasks 2, ViewWire, and Samba runtime view needed a live NAS deployment on the HomeLab LAN, not achievable from this workstation. We can just make deploy. Oops. Oh, I'm still SSH'd in. This is beautiful. So we can run make deploy, and it takes the build, and it ships it off to my NAS. And then we can actually do the test. Build on and activates the NAS. A real infra mutation, you should drive. Yeah, okay, that's fair. You deploy, then I collect evidence. You run the 2 checks yourself, paste the output. Yeah, once this deploy is done, then we'll see if it worked. Where do you expect secrets to first appear? See, yeah, I also don't know what secrets I'm going to need, right? So I feel like I'm planning for secrets pretty early. I just, like, what are they going to be? You know what? We're going to come back to this once this deploys. So, okay, that's good. Should be good. Run make test. Actually, I want to run it myself. I want to see what happens. So, what should happen is from this machine, it should use SMB util to see if the thing exists, right? I mean, looks to me like tests passed, but I don't really know. Oops. So we don't just bait with NixOS now. All right, that's fair. That's fair. No, we're actually doing NixOS things. We're doing it. Um, okay, so I'm gonna do this off screen real quick and see if it works. Okay, so I think if I do this SMB util view dash n dash g, we should see stuff. SMB util view dash n dash g, and it's just the IP address next. Okay, 10.10.10.11. Cool, that works. So it's seeing it. I guess now the question is, does it show up in Finder? Okay. And I wonder how the test got configured. How do the tests work? I don't know much about that. Path is cool, cool. Worked. Make test passes and a manual run of SMB util view shows the shares. Okay, so now what's happening is I'm not seeing them in Finder, which is interesting. Be a multicast DNS. Ah, that's what M stands. Okay, cool. But for Finder, to show the server in the sidebar network, macOS relies on Sama's built-in MDNS should advertise, but there are a few gotchas. macOS's Finder's network view shows hosts advertising via Bonjour. However, there's a known issue. All right. This has gone really well, though. I like what this experience felt like, right? We wrote a spec. The spec defined the home lab, like a new home lab feature, and then it worked, right? Unless macOS can discover the NAS over Bonjour. Okay, let me check whether the NAS is actually broadcasting. No, being advertised. Service, no Samba TCP is being advertised. That confirms the gap. Let me probe. Okay, cool. So, yeah. But this is like, Nix makes agentic home labbing a thing. This kind of rocks. This is really cool. Does not actually publish MDNS records. The built-in MDNS publisher is part of the ADDC MDNSD, which NixOS's service Samba does not enable for a standalone server. It's enabled by default. Oh, okay. So the diagnosis is clear. Nothing on the NAS is advertising over MDNS. That makes sense. Okay, so this should work. Will that work? That I don't think that will. If I do go, wait, no. Connect to server, right? Okay, cool. Interesting. So I'm getting an error mounting. Ah, that's a shame. Tell me what there says. Oh no, but I guess it's easier to reason not only for humans. Yes, pretty much. Hmm. Like, basically, you have the whole thing stored in text in a repo now, which is pretty powerful. Hmm. Hmm. Weird that my screenshots aren't sending through. Okay. Sure does not exist on the server. Interesting. Status and lookup got no route to host, but SMB util view worked. That's weird. Yep. I set guest OK equals yes as a string. I'll put guest OK, yes, that's correct. Let me test the actual mount. Hmm. The underlying path does not exist on the NAS. The paths do exist on the NAS and are mounted from ZFS. So the share path itself isn't the problem. The issue is the guest operator mapping interacting with the data directory's ownership. Okay. Map to guest equals bad user. Can't parse host name from path. This is a macOS client Samba DFS referral quirk. What? macOS sends the server path in a form Samba's DFS parser rejects, and Samba refuses the tree connect with share does not exist, rather than serving the share directly. This is a good reason to move to Nix on my MacBook. The standard fix is to disable Samba's DFS host resolution on the server and ensuring no share is marked as a DFS root. What is DFS? Samba DFS. Distributed file system. Okay. Is a feature that provides several functions: alternative namespace, load balancing, and automatic failover. Technically, DFS provides access to a shared directory that contains no files, only junctions and optionally subdirectories with more junctions. Okay. That seems like a thing that I might need, right? Because I've got, like, if we look over here, where's fish? Okay. So if I do this, SSH into our server, if we do a ZFS list, right, we've got a bunch of, like, basically under data itself is empty. It's just like a house. It's a it's a way to house a bunch of actual data sets that contain important stuff. Because I was told by documentation and stuff that you shouldn't just use the pool. You should create a data set that houses other data sets. And I was like, okay, cool. I'll do that then. Um, yeah. So that's weird. So given that, distributed file system stuff sounds important. Okay. So Samba stops trying to parse this as a DFS referral path and just serves a share. Right. This is a well-known macOS versus Samba 420 interaction. Okay. Samba control needs root. Right. Interesting. So the main use of this is to create an alternative namespace, directory-tree view that hides details of the underlying infrastructure from users. The paths that the users see, called DFS names, do not change when servers are renamed. Okay, cool. So it holds like a mapping to a bunch of like different structures. Maybe that's not necessary. But first, let me try a simpler diagnostic use, SME client style, via the NAS itself to confirm a guest tree connect to MediaBin works locally. Cool. This makes sense. There's no group named operator. Operator's primary group is users. First group equals operator references a non-existent group. Every tree connect fails. I see. This makes sense. So it was trying to adopt. Right. It inferred that there was a group named operator because I created a user named operator, and that's what I use. But there is no group. And so when it was trying to force the group, it was forced the group as operator from a guest, then it failed. This makes sense to me. Cool. All right then. Guest tree connect. Server side, guest tree connect works now. Both shares list their contents as guest. Now the real test from this Mac, exactly mirroring Finder's path. Okay. I'm going to let it handle that. But what this tells us is SMB util view is not an adequate test. It's a test and it's helpful, but not good enough, it seems. Because this, I mean, it passed and we couldn't see shit, could we? Finder go connect thing, connect as guest. You'll see and mount MediaBin and small boy, they'll mount and show all your files. What still doesn't work, the shares appearing automatically in Finder's network bar. Confirm the NAS is broadcasting no MDNS records. This is, yes, right? Finder sidebar only browses Bonjour, so the NAS, okay. So you have two separate things. Now that auto discovery in Finder is still broken, needs the Avahi fallback. Option A, enable Avahi. Recommended. Yeah. 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 Investigate why Samba's built-in MDNS isn't publishing first before adding Avahi. SMBD even has the MDNS responder compiled in on the Nix. Actually, that is kind of interesting, and I would like to know that. Briefly go down the option C rabbit hole. If nothing comes of it, we'll add Avahi. I think I'm going to have to spend a little time reorganizing the flakes because things are starting to sprawl, and I don't like that. But it's coming together. I mean, if I hop over here now, connect to server. I can now jump in as a guest and get Small Boy. Aha! Look at this. That's a NAS. It's a test. Haha! I can see all of my files again. This has been down for a while now, so I'm pretty happy. Pretty happy to have this back. You can see I was working on my Gabe Cube video. Hell yeah. Okay, so I can actually resume editing this video. We're getting there. We're getting there. Cool. At some point, I stored a file with, like, basically I was documenting my home lab on here. Let's add media bin. Maybe it went on to media bin. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Music, photos, shows. So I thought I'd put this here. Weird. Oh, DB. There it is. Sweet. Okay, I needed this. DB is where I was documenting like the end goal of my home lab. And I'd lost it because it was on my NAS, which you would think to be pretty secure. Not so much. But now I can explore that again. Excellent. The NAS is back online, baby. So let's do a quick. Actually, this is fine to have here. What is this? This is, yeah, that's. I'm gonna exit here. Oh no, I want to do this. NVim. I'm gonna move this here. Ha! Yes! Ha! Yeah! Okay. This is excellent news. Because there's a bunch of stuff I want to take out of this. Because I had great plans. Great plans for how things would work. And now I can manifest much of it. What time is it? We're coming up on the close of stream, but we've done what we set out to do. We've got the NAS working again. So that's pretty good. Pretty secure. Was it SMBv1? Hello, Northern Chimp. Was it SMBv1? I don't know exactly what it was. Yeah, pretty secure. Yeah, I know. We're doing one step at a time. I'll start setting up some security for this. I just wanted to see if it would work, right? My network is entirely private. I have no open ports or anything like that. So I'm not too concerned with the fact that my NAS, which contains nothing of any serious value, is guest. So should be fine. But we'll start working on it. Nice. Okay, so now it's detectable and we have our stuff. This is excellent. Very good. So yeah, we can start to go through some of that. What the heck? Why is Claude even in here? Yeah, all of that's fine. Oh, wow, I haven't... Oh, okay, I see. Because I got rid of all of these. Open, right, gets... I don't need Claude in here. Yeah, this is all fine. Yep. Migrate to spec base and set up Samba shares. There we go. So that's looking pretty good. there's one thing I want to do. Like my tests weren't working. Sorry, I had to step away. What did I miss? Not much. I mean, we got the NAS working again. We have Samba shares now. Excellent news. So no MDNS in this Samba build, so Avahi was the only path. So we set up Avahi so it'll get auto-detected. That's all well and good. And the great news about this, well, there's quite a bit of great news. Now, I was working on a video that was stored on my NAS, and I can finish that video. So that's cool. Also, my notes about how I was building out the home lab are in here. So that big beautiful plan I was working on, some of it I want to salvage, right? So there were more files. Hold on. Maybe some of it didn't make it. Home lab. New note, Proxbox, home lab index. Is this the old one? No, I guess this will work though. Infrastructure containers. Yes, cool. Want to add an idea to investigate microvan. Smart. The feature is already being awesome. I just add investigate micro VMs on NixOS as a way to handle hosting services. Video about debugging Avahi incoming. Is it that bad? Okay. Note. Interested in Docker alternatives, because that seems to be a nice way to work in Nix. Cool. The answer is you tried to cross a network boundary. Okay. Where was I? Is this everything? Yes, this is fine. This is, yeah. So what did I want to do? I did not do UPS and NUT stuff. So that still needs to happen. This needs to happen. Okay, so there's a bunch. This was all good. Assign static IPs to all devices per the network layout. That actually happened. Really happy about that. So this is good. More or less, this is good. This is now Samba shares on NixNAS. That's good. Hostname NAST. Decide this is not done. Configure UPS and NUT shutdown orchestration. I don't know how to do all that yet, but yes, okay. Let's add that for spec base ideas. Add investigate CGAs. What? CGAs. Let's do this. Changes feet. Nope. Not changes. I want ideas. What is it called? Cryptographic AGs. Micro VMs provide isolation. Yes, agreed. You already got them NixOSs. Might as well just set up shell as flakes, right? Or what do you mean about micro VMs? Oh, yeah, isolation for services. Right, so I'm thinking about not using Docker. Generated addresses. Okay, generated addresses. So we'll take a look at that. So let's come back here. This I really want to get going. Oh, this should also, I want this documented. Document the current OpenSense configuration. I wish, like, I wonder how good OpenSense's like infrastructure as codes type stuff is. I need a backup system for that as well. If that box died, I would be pissed. Configure backups for OpenSense. Okay, this needs to happen. This needs to happen, and I think we're considering NetBird. and then maybe like 2FA stuff. Um, hardware key, possibly. What's the hardware key you were using again? I tried as code OpenSense and decided I'd build my own version. It was so not a great experience. If you want all-in-one, Pangolin over Netbird. Okay, I'll take a look at that too. Pangolin. Nitro key. Okay. Nitro key. So we've got. I'm just gonna put Netbird, tail scale, Pangolin, and I'll do a little bit of considering about that. So yeah, 2FA stuff, hardware compute, SSH key configuration. What I want is that SSH keys are like really quick and easy to get onto any machine I want. That would be really nice. Damn, another rabbit hole. Oh, we have so many rabbit holes, but that's the fun, right? Set up PBS VM, configure nightly PBS backup schedule, set up GPU pass through on prod VM. Okay, yeah, a lot of this is going to get reconfigured. But this traffic, okay, traffic reverse proxy is that I'm still considering. Let's encrypt stuff, core DNS and AdGuard, observability. Yes, I was considering authentic for OIDC. That's what I was thinking about earlier. Thinking about OIDC. Yeah. Configure. It's funny. I've got configure OIDC for these things. They're not even up. This does not make any sense. Feature containers. Jellyfin, image, Navigerome, audiobook, shelf, booklore. See, okay. Plan storage mapping for each container. Backups and offsite. Yeah. Okay, cool. I mean, I'm glad. We have some documentation about where I was headed. It looks like I might have lost some of my documentation. Oops. Whoops. Let's do this. Nope. Come on now. Like, home lab index. Yeah, it looks like I lost some documentation. I guess I didn't sync it properly, which is pretty cringe of me. But what are you going to do? At least I have a list again of some of my stuff. Not big on authentic myself. Yeah, it was one of the choices. Do you have a preference? I'll probably spend some time mapping this out again. I just need an auth thing. But I feel like for the first time in a while, we're actually making progress on the home lab. Like, and in a way that feels really durable to me, right? Like, what is going on? There we go. Before, I mean, now if this goes down, I just redeploy. Like, I get another machine, I install Nix, and I just hit it. Canedum. Okay, traffic. Where is my thing here? Yeah, I'll have to go through all those rabbit holes. But we'll see what I land on. Modern and simple identity management platform written in Rust. Cool. SSH key distribution to Linux Unix systems. That's fun. Okay, hold on. I'll be right back, and then we'll wrap up stream. Well, okay, so the NAS works. The NAS works. Beautiful. And I'm liking the way spec-based home labbing is feeling. It feels confident. Like, I feel confident that the flakes being produced work. We have testing built in to the way the system is built. Uh, I don't know. It's looking pretty good. Like, every time we build a new feature, enforcement is baked in, so we can actually test our home lab to some degree. That feels really good. I need to read through what was produced, because this isn't just some like throwaway code base. This is my home lab, right? So I really want to make sure that it's good, but it's Nix, right? It's very readable. What's your monitoring answer? I'm not sure yet. I have a couple. Like, I was gonna go through Grafana, Prometheus, and Loki. Those are things I've heard of. I imagine what's going to happen is, now that we're actually shipping features, right? Like, we're getting pretty close to actually setting up like a bunch of services. We're going to go through like one per stream for a while. There's still a fair amount of infrastructure work to do, but we're getting there. Hey, Tim. Victoria metrics and vector. Okay. Victoria metrics vector. Okay. So, yeah, we need an approach to hosting services. Of course, Docker is always one, but micro VMs look also very promising. We do have an outlined approach to network, right? So I already have kind of defined somewhere in here where, like, the logical segmentation of my network. So I have IP addresses in my brain and in this document mapped to any number of virtual machines. I think I've got room for like 50 or something. Should be enough, right? And so that's perfectly fine. We should be able to do that. I don't know what the affordances of going with a micro VM versus like Docker stuff is. I mean, one of the benefits of doing Docker things is, as a YouTuber, it's easier to be like, I did these Docker things. But, there's already a bunch of people who do that. And this is what I'm genuinely interested in. So I'm a big believer in like making content about the stuff that you actually are interested in and are doing actively. So if I'm just like the NixOS Home Lab YouTube guy who's like, here's how I did it in Nix, that'll be cool. Follow or lead. Yeah, exactly, right? So, I mean, this is what interests me. This is, I think, how I'm going to approach it. And it'll be fun. I think we'll kind of make it a thing. Like, I'll make a video about the full Nix Home Lab approach and see how it goes. Like the full, we'll call it like spec-based home labbing with Nix. And we'll see like how far we can take this. Like, do I even need Proxmox if I can do this? I don't know, right? The GUI is always nice, that's for sure. And Proxmox is great software. But I do want to see how far we can take this. That is a statement kind of scares me, because I've said that before about things like Kubernetes, and then nothing got done. But this feels really easy, right? Like, we got the NAS configured really well. The flakes are readable, tested. Like, this makes sense. So, yeah, I feel pretty confident that we could take this pretty far. And like, one of the things you don't say. Yeah, it's deserved. You've been waiting for me to finally make the leap to Nix for a while. You earned that. If I need a GUI, right? If I need a GUI on top of Nix for whatever reason, or maybe need is the wrong word, but if I want one, it's not that hard to get an LLM to stand up a GUI that just like kind of reads the current configuration and lets you edit files, right? So I think that's very doable. I wonder how hard it would be to build like a cockpit equivalent on top of NixOS for spinning up VMs. Would I even want to do that? Like, I'm doing spec-based work, right? I want everything to be tracked. They'll make something prettier than I would too. Yeah, I feel that. I'm not a graphic designer or a UI UX person, so there's that. I've been using I've had an LLM sicked onto a project for a while. I've been interested in PewDiePie's Odysseus project, which is like an AI homeland or like an AI hub for self-hosters. And I was like, I'm just gonna rebuild that. I'm gonna test out spec base by reverse engineering that and building it the way I would want it done. And we'll see how that works. I don't think you want anything but views into. Yeah, that sounds about right. Because then we have like multiple ways of authoring, and if there's more ways, if there's multiple ways to edit, then we get drift. But if there's multiple ways to view, that's perfectly fine. So, yep. I mean, I wouldn't want to drive it from a GUI, right? Like, what I like about this is the fact that I can do this. Hey, bestie, my mom's gonna. Oh, that's my fiance just saying I gotta get off stream. We're going grocery shopping, so I gotta go. All right, cool. This is working really well. I'm happy. We will continue working on this next week. Cool. Thank you all so much for coming.